of the day is archetype. We're going to start right here.
What is an archetype? The dictionary definition sucks. So let's take a quick look at some ideas that can help us understand the concept properly. For now, just think of an archetype as a pattern.
Hold on really quick. So Ty's my favorite Thor, Brielle. Like Brooks is one of my creative writing 2 kids, right? And so was Bowden, and so is Jake. That's why you'll have a couple of kids who, yeah, okay.
Thank you. We'll figure out what kind of pattern in a second. See, reality is complex. Actually, crazy complex. Our ways of describing it even now were pretty ineffective. So our ancestors had to understand this crazy, complex existence with a way more limited tool set than we have now. They didn't have science or facts. They mostly had sticks and fire. One of the tools they used to understand their existence was to tell stories. And from these stories, archetypes emerged. Archetypes are ancient patterns, maybe even our earliest patterns.
So I think that's the first easiest way to wrap your brain around archetypes is it's basically a super fancy way of saying pattern, but a little bit more in depth than that. So let's watch a little bit of this one.
Power in literature, characterization and archetype. Another vocab word we've used is characterization, which maps to another $5 word, archetype. Can you talk about those terms and apply them to tangible literature? What is characterization and archetype mean?
An archetype is a very specific type of character that you'll see throughout literature. It's basically that every story, or almost every story, has, the wise father figure, Atticus.
They're talking about a specific novel called To Kill a Mockingbird. So they're half wrong here. Archetypes, you can have archetypal characters, but archetypes take what we learned about stock characters. We had talked about that last week where we talked about stereotypes like these ones, but it pushes it farther. So archetype and stock character can technically be the same thing, but archetype goes farther. So archetypes are still patterns, they're still cliches, they're still stereotypes, but it's not just characters that you as a creative writer can use these to your advantage, because I could have an archetypal situation, or I could have an archetypal setting, or I could have it can apply to almost anything. Anything that can have a pattern could be an archetype. So, for example, these are camping archetypes. Raise your hand if you've ever experienced one of these camping archetypes. You've gone fishing, or you have been nervous about running into a bear, which is me when I'm camping, or you've been in the woods, or you've been in a tent. All of those are archetypes that have to do with camping. And so that's what I'm talking about, that stock character and archetype, same, but archetype can be not just character stuff as well. So you could have an archetypal mall. Like when I say the word mall, a couple of you raise your hand and tell me, what do you picture when you picture the mall? Brecken, what's one thing? I especially like the smell good part. Like there's the Bath and Body Works they're pumping scent out. What's another archetype about the mall? A bunch of Edgars, is that what you said? I'm old and don't know what that is. Can you define for the old lame person in the room?
They've got like the mushroom haircut.
Oh, that's called an Edgar. I can say I learned something today. Okay. So I like that your archetype was more of a character archetype, and that your archetype was more of a setting, right? Because we were thinking about like the Bath and Body Works. So I gotcha. Yeah. Okay, but it goes, and this is why. Like as a creative writer, it makes your job easier. When I say Wild Wild West, do I have to do a ton of work to explain exactly what I mean? No, everyone knows Wild West. We think of dusty, the middle of town, right? Cowboys, the showdown, right? That's that whole thing is an archetype. Yeah, it's a pattern. Yeah, think of archetype as pattern, stereotype, or a shared common experience, right? That most people at some point in their life have maybe seen a movie. Raise your hand if you've seen a movie where it had two characters fighting on top of a train. Archetype. It's a pattern. It's a stereotype. Yeah. Oh, is it in Fortnite too? That's perfect. Raise your hand if you have heard of or experienced Black Friday craziness. Yeah, that's a situational archetype. It's a pattern that, as a creative writer, I don't have to do a ton of work. Yeah, Carson. Yeah.
It says bully. Could I, for the you try, could
Yeah.
I put a specific bully?
Yes, that would be a great way. So the only other thing I'll mention before we're going to do one extra step today is anytime you can basically open up your reader's brain and pick out some background knowledge, that's a really good thing as a creative writer. If I can use what I know my audience already knows and then access it, then I'm making their life easier. Plus, I'm also helping them connect to my story. So that's why using archetypes is a good thing. That, yes, it's saving you time, but you're also accessing background knowledge. So notice how there's an extra underlined bolded part in the you try box. So just like Carson helpfully mentioned, yes, you're still going to give me an example, but we're doing something extra on this one because this is a more advanced idea. So just because I don't feel great, somebody who's got a really good out loud reading, you're not going to sound like a robot. Who's going to read the first paragraph for me? Levi, I believe that you will be great at this. Super loud, just the first paragraph. Okay, we'll let you chew. While Levi prepares, when we do listen to this, there's an extra assessment points. If you pay attention, you'll be fine. But there's going to be questions that come directly from this paragraph. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Pay attention. There's assessment points here.
In literature, an archetype is a stereotypical character, theme, symbol, setting, situation, or an action that seems to represent universal patterns of human nature. They supposedly reflect common human experiences like birth, death, motherhood, fatherhood, and whatnot.
Perfect. Good. That was amazing out loud reading voice. Does somebody want to take the second one for me? And nice, loud, don't sound like a robot. Here we go. Second paragraph.
An archetype, also known as a universal symbol, meaning a character, a theme, a symbol, a setting, a situation, or an action. Many literary critics are part of the opinion that archetypes, which is a common and recurring representation in a particular human culture or entire human base, shape the structure and function of a literary work.
So it's kind of cool because you'll have the same archetype in completely separate places in the world. So you might have the wise old man archetype in one culture, but a culture all the way across the world has the same archetype. That's why they're shared experiences. They're patterns that, as a human, you have probably experienced. I'm going to take this last one because it has a weird name in it. So Carl Jung, who was a Swiss psychologist, argued that the root of an archetype is called the collective unconscious. So basically, no matter what time you're from, usually, or no matter where you live, we all have these experiences of mankind. The phrase collective unconscious refers to experiences shared by race or culture. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter who you are. We all have these experiences. This includes love, religion, death, birth, life, struggle, survival. These experiences exist in the subconscious of every individual and are recreated in literary works or other forms of art. As creative writers, we're accessing all of these archetypes, these shared experiences. So there are, I hate this, I always try to make such a big deal. This is worth extra. I think it's 9 assessment points, not just 2, because there are right and wrong answers, if you paid attention. Question 1 is in the first paragraph. And then question 2 that we just read is also in that first paragraph. So everybody take a second. We just read it out loud, but I want you to reread that first paragraph in your head and then answer question 1 and question 2, and then we'll come back together. But you're thinking of, as a creative writer, how am I going to use archetypes? So go ahead and think about question 1 and question 2. guys. So you should have had plenty of time to answer question 1 and question 2. And you also gave me your You Try box. You have to do all 3 of those things, which is a little different than normal. But I hope you'll use archetypes. I do all the time. They save me tons of time. Plus, they make you a fancier creator writer. So any questions or comments, or anybody have an example that they wanted to share? And it's okay if not. Whatever. Lily, would it make your life easier if you have a couple extra hands to add some points? Okay, yep. Lily will direct you. She's in charge. Okay, so everybody turn that in. And then